good evening. Welcome to our August Going Deeper in the Inner Circle video. And this month, I wanted to share something that I've just been noticing thematically, and I have spoken about it before, but not for a while. I did a podcast years ago called, "Do you want to be a superhuman or a superhuman?" And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And it's because I've been noticing that the becoming a superhuman, which is, I think actually there's a new Dave Asprey book, The Bulletproof Guy, talks about, superhuman and hacking our brains and hacking our bodies and continual self-improvement, and that whole movement is actually almost 180 degrees the opposite of what it seems to me the inside out understanding points us to as the possibility for being human, the greater possibility. So it's almost like if you broke it down into two choices, it would be I'm going to work on myself and empower myself and become great at everything, and I'm going to get my emotions in order, and I'm going to never feel bad and always feel good, and I'm going to manage my mind so I will never get stressed or scared, and if I do, I'll easily manage it and quickly do this, and I'll be great at that. And that whole movement towards becoming this image of perfection, this ultimate fulfillment of ego, as opposed to being more and more centered in, grounded in our deeper nature. That in us which is in all of us. That in us which is of everything. And I was looking through to see if I'd written about this before, and I couldn't find a blog, but I found a metaphor that I wrote that I liked. So, imagine Clark Kent is hypnotized by an evil supervillain and forgets that he's really Superman. From that moment forward, each time danger comes to Metropolis, Clark does everything he knows to do to stay alive, protect Lois, and keep his job safe by getting a great story about it for the Daily Planet. Now, if he decides he wants to keep himself, Lois, and his job even safer, he might read books and do courses in self-defense and creative journalism. But if he can just wake up from his thought-induced hypnotic state and remember who he really is, he'll realize that he's already safe, and that he has the power within him not only to survive, but to thrive, to make a difference to the world around him by being who he really is inside. And I like that as a metaphor. I like superhero metaphors anyways, but I was talking to our business incubator group the other day, and this theme came up, and one of the things about Superman is he's not super because he works on himself. He's not like Batman, who's continually working out, and like you never see Superman in a gym. And it's because he comes from another place. And he comes, if I'm remembering the origin story correctly, he comes from a place where gravity is so heavy that when he comes to Earth, it's like, when you see astronauts bouncing around on the moon, except times 10. So everything is just easy for him here. So it's not that he's superhuman. It's not that he's Clark Kent on steroids. He literally is somebody who finds life on Earth relatively easy to manage because he's coming from a different dimension in the stories of space. Now, we can easily overdo the metaphor, and I probably will before this is done. But the reason that I thought it would be worth taking some time with in this month's video and to kick off our exploration together when we're together in the group is because I think that becoming superhuman habit is so culturally endemic that idea of working on oneself, that everything is an opportunity for growth. Relationships are an opportunity for growth. I remember being taught that, relationships aren't for life, they're for learning. And I was quite shocked and pleasantly surprised when I heard or read George Pransky in the Relationship Handbook going, relationships are, the point of a relationship is to enjoy each other's company. And I remember being a little bit outraged, like, no, it's to make me a better person and to challenge my emotional stability and to do this. And yet when I looked at it, I went, well, why would I put that? Like, what's so wrong with me that I have to turn everything into a growth opportunity? Like, how messed up must I think I am? How pathetic must I feel that I have to solve every problem by becoming a better version of myself? And so there's something really interesting, and I'm sort of saying it to highlight it. I'm saying it so you'll start to notice for yourself, over the next few hours, the next few days, the next few weeks, you'll start to notice that becoming superhuman habit in yourself. Now, if you just love it, if it's just fun for you, go for it. I'm not suggesting it's inherently problematic to work on yourself. But it becomes problematic pretty quickly when we think we need to work on ourselves, when we think there is something fundamentally wrong with us, fundamentally missing. Because it means that we interpret everything that happens in our lives through that filter. So if I think there is something fundamentally wrong with me and anything goes wrong in my life, my business isn't thriving, I make a mistake on my taxes, I say something stupid and my partner or friend is mad at me, then my explanation, my attribution for the cause of the problem is me. There's something, see? More evidence, there's something wrong with me. So the way we define the problem determines where we look for the solution, right? If I think the problem is low zinc, I'm going to take more zinc. If I think the problem is to do with the cold weather, I'm going to wrap up warm. Whatever I think the problem is going to predetermine where I look for the solution. So if I think the problem is me, if you think the problem is you, you're always going to look to fixing yourself, working on yourself, becoming superhuman as the solution. But imagine that that's just not true. I'm actually asserting that's not true, but you can just imagine that that's not true. If it's not you, well, what is it? Well, maybe it's that something you did didn't work out. Maybe it's that something you did came from a kind of an imbalanced place in the moment in yourself. Like you just got caught up and you kind of did something stupid. Like that wouldn't exactly be front page news, right? Or if that wasn't an option, if you were not allowed to make it, there's something wrong with me that needs fixing, how would you handle the problems in your life? Because you still would, right? Superman, has to stop bullets and crime and leap tall buildings and all that stuff. He faces challenges, but he doesn't face them by working on himself. He faces them by working on the challenge. And it's comical when you're not caught up in it to see how much of our creative energy we apply towards working on the human as opposed to just working on the problem, on blaming the equipment instead of learning how to use it better. You must have in your life encountered a bathroom where the hot and cold taps were reversed. And if you don't know, it's always like, what am I doing wrong? Oh God, they're broken. And it's not that they're broken. It's that They're wired differently to the way that you thought they were wired. Well, it's the same with us. We're wired differently to the way we've been taught from birth that we're wired. We live in an inside-out reality, but we're told we live in an outside-in reality. So we think everything we feel is feedback about what's going on around us, when it's actually direct feedback about what's going on inside us. And so there's a learning curve. When you start to see, oh, it's not that I'm broken, it's that I don't work the way I thought I did. Then the kind of only self-development project that makes much sense is learning more about how you already work. And it turns out that human beings are extremely well made. We're made to thrive. We're made of, I don't even like this, but like thrive stuff. We're made of life. We're made of fizz. We're made of aliveness. We're made of pure energy. And we have the capacity to think. And that capacity to think turns out to be a mixed blessing, because it's so good, it's so powerful, it creates reality so instantaneously with consciousness bringing it to life and bringing it to our senses, that if we don't realize how it works, it really does feel like we're constantly up against it. But we're not up against it. We're made of it. In fact, we are it. So, a lot of this is just to kind of loosen up, shake up the tea leaves, and see how they land. But if you want a few things to play with, one would be just to notice over the next few hours, days, weeks, notice when that superhuman habit kicks in, that desire to solve problems by working on yourself instead of working on the problem. 2, ask yourself, why aren't I awesomer? And not from the point of view of, oh, because I'm broken, oh, because of my childhood, oh, because of this, but it's like, what if you are awesome, but where it's not coming out is just where there's a misunderstanding, where you're caught up in the outside-in illusion that it's all happening to you, and somehow hot is cold and cold is hot, and you're just can't, there's something fundamentally wrong with the system. And if there were nothing wrong with you, if there is nothing wrong with the design, then how does that change the way you explain what goes on? How does things going right and things going wrong look different in your world if it's not evidence of fundamental flaws? How does the way you view others change if you can see that they just keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? They're trying to drive using the mirror instead of the steering wheel and wondering why they keep getting into trouble. You start to see, oh, there's nothing wrong with them, but they don't understand what's going on. And what I find for me is that gives me a lot more compassion. A lot more compassion, not because I'm working on my compassion muscles, but because you just see, oh man, am I up against it? Oh man, are we all up against it? We have all been, hypnotized into thinking we're Clark Kent or Lois Lane, when in fact, we're something so much more than that. But as long as we really think we're Clark and Lois, well, then we're kind of, our best move is to try and be a better version of Clark and be a better version of Lois. So, have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and we'll use this as a jumping off point for our conversation when we get together. Bye-bye for now.